In this episode, we sit down with Joe Yurick, host of This Sober Vet podcast, to explore the journey behind his voice. Joe opens up about his early experiences with drinking, how the culture of alcohol shaped his time in the military, and the struggles he faced transitioning back to civilian life. He shares how sobriety, faith, and the unwavering support of his wife became the foundation for healing, and how that journey led him to create a podcast and a business rooted in service. So you've mentioned starting to drink at an early age. Can you take us back to that time when you were 15?
I can, absolutely. So I'm from a small town called Cochranville, Pennsylvania. There's only one red light in that town to this day. So there was nothing to do. So we had to find things to entertain ourselves. So I would go to my friend's house. They would have big barns. We would sneak in the fridge in the barn. Usually their dads would have like Pabst Blue Ribbon or some like just cheap beer. And we would start drinking them. And then my senior year, I actually had a connect. My older sister's fiance would get us whatever we needed. So I was like the cool kid. I'd go around like, all right, guys, what do you want this weekend? I would collect the money, bring it to him. He would run out, grab the stuff, and I would bring it to whoever's house party or field party, whatever it was that evening. I was like the cool guy delivering all the goods. And yeah, we would be wild because we were young and unhinged and just in the middle of a cornfield, just acting up.
That's like the typical, I'm from a small town, there's nothing else to do.
Might as well drink, yeah, and then
Might
get
as well
mailbox
drink.
smashing or whatever came to mind. Yeah. Well,
What drew you to the military, and how did your relationship with alcohol shift?
that's a great question. So halfway through my senior year, um, I was a class clown. I really had no direction. I kind of viewed every classroom as an audience. So I was always on just bordering the line of getting kicked out and being funny. And halfway through my senior year, my best friend came up to me and was like, dude, what are we going to do when we graduate? I haven't even thought that far ahead. I was worried about today. So I was like, I don't know, go to college. He was like, you don't have the grades for that because I really never applied myself. I would get other people to do my homework for me. Like I was always hustling. So he was like, I've been talking to an army recruiter. We could join in something called the buddy program. So I was like, all right, dude, like I got your back. Let's do it. So we actually signed up in December of my senior year in something called the delayed entry program. And then we weren't supposed to leave till like 2 weeks after we graduated. Well, a couple weeks before we were actually supposed to leave, my buddy who talked me into this called me and said, "Hey man, I got a lawyer and I got out. I'm really not interested in joining." So I was like, "What are you talking about? Like this was your idea. Like I literally was going because you came to me and was like, yo, we should do this together." And yeah, he backed out. So me being a man of my word, I continued with my journey because every like I already told everybody I did my senior project on this. Like all my family knew. Like I didn't want to have to explain to people why I was still here. So I just went in solo and was like, all right, I guess this is happening. So then my relationship with alcohol grew in what I thought then was a really fun way, but looking back in hindsight was a very bad way because I was stationed at Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, Texas. And for those that don't know, that's like on the western tip of Texas. It's like right here. And right on the other side of the border is Juarez, Mexico. And in Mexico, you only have to be 18 to drink. So I guess at the time, leadership on post was like, hey, if we make drinking age on post 18, it'll keep our soldiers here so they're not like trying to go to Juarez because that's a big no-no. So drinking age on post was 18. I didn't know that till I got there. But once I got there, I was like, wait. So I could walk down to the class six, which was the liquor store, and I could buy whatever I want, whenever I want. It's on. Like our barracks parties were crazy. Like we were just like these unadulterated kids just having fun, because you're 18 and like you have the keys to the liquor store. Like, oh, it was crazy.
So, going off of that, did the culture around drinking in the army make it uh, harder to recognize how it was maybe affecting you at the time? Was it
Absolutely.
affecting you at the time?
It was affecting me. Yes. I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, it absolutely, the culture is, it's hard because when you're doing it, when you're playing Edward 40 hands and you have 40 ounces taped to your hands and you have to finish one and smash it to be able to get it off so you could unzipper it so you could relieve yourself. Like other people are doing it too, so you don't think anything of it. When you're drinking to the point where you pass out or you do something like puke and rally, like you're just not thinking. It's weird because everyone around you is doing the same thing. So you're just like, this is what we do. And again, back then it was a blast. I had so much fun. Like I did a lot of stupid things, but that was just the culture, you know. Like we knew that at any point we could get deployed and be in a situation where we might not make it. So we're like, might as well live it up while we're here, you know. And again, like because you're surrounded by it and it's so deep rooted in this culture, at the time I didn't think it was a problem until we were getting ready to have an influx of soldiers come in. So Friday at final formation, first sergeant's like, all right guys, if you are an E4 or below, that's a rank E4. And he was like, if you're E4 or below and you're a single room in the barracks, we're going to have new soldiers. So I'm either going to put someone with you or you guys could bunk up over the weekend. So my buddy looks at me and was like, hey, you want to bunk up? I was like, yeah, sure. So all weekend we spent like combining our rooms, making bunk beds, decking the room out and everything. And then Sunday at like 5 o'clock, my boy's like, all right, dude, we got to christen the room and we got to do it right because this is going to be like the party room in the bees, which is what we call the barracks, the bees. I was like, all right.
Hmm.
So he goes down to the class six, comes back with a bottle of 151, which is like 100 proof vodka or whatever, and a 2 liter thing of Coke. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because we have like first formations at 0500 Monday morning. Like, we have to work tomorrow. He's like, all right, hear me out. We're going to make 151 in Coke. That'll be our chaser. And every 15 minutes, you and I are going to do a shot. And I'm like, dude, like, why? And he's like, I'm telling you, man, we got to break this room in right. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So the night commenced. It turned into a huge barracks party. I don't even remember half the evening because that no one should drink 151. It is like the worst thing ever. I do remember the next morning because we had there was a room and then a Jack and Jill bathroom connecting two barracks rooms. Well, in the morning, there's usually an NCO. If you're not out of your room, like buffing the hallway or whatever we're supposed to be doing, someone will knock on your door. Well, we were passed out, so they knocked. No one was answering, so they went through my roommate's door. As soon as they opened the bathroom, they looked down. They see my new roommate, hugging the toilet. He had literally passed out on the toilet, and then they came into the room. I was laying on the bottom bunk. I was next to a pile of throw up. I had like passed out my bunk, and I guess throughout the night I was throwing up. Again, 151 should never be consumed. It's horrible. So, so then he was like, he was an NCO. He was very upset. He was like, both you get down to first formation. Don't even change. Like, stay in your civilian clothes. Just go downstairs. So we're like, uh-oh. So we're standing in formation. Everyone's like, why are they not wearing their PT gear? Well, the PT, everyone else leaves to go do physical training. And the sergeant that found us was like, get in the car. I'm taking you guys. There was a hospital right off post. He took us right to the hospital. They took our BAC, and my BAC was like, it was 1 point something. I don't remember because it was like 21 years ago, but it was like super high. So my roommate and I both got in trouble for being drunk on duty. And in the military, when you get in trouble, you get something called Article 15. And depending on how severe your punishment is, with an Article 15 comes extra duty, and you could potentially lose rank. So at this time, I think I was an E2, which is just a private. They took me back down to E1 and they gave me 60 days of extra duty as a punishment for being drunk on duty. So yeah, that's
Wow.
a way where alcohol definitely affected me in a negative way by just not thinking and not being responsible.
What was your transition to civilian life like?
That was difficult because when you're in the military, especially when you're lower enlisted and you live in the barracks, you literally play together, laugh together, cry together, fight together. Like you do everything with this group of people. You kind of like you form a bond that is very unrelatable to civilians because I deployed with these people. I was in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. So like I was overseas with these people. I came back with these people. Like I knew that everyone in that unit had my back and I had their back because we literally have done everything together. And it's great just knowing like even when we would go out and about in El Paso, if there ever were to be a fight or anything, everyone we were with, boom, would be right there, like to have each other's back. Well, when you get into the civilian world, not only are you not surrounded by people that share that camaraderie or ethos of brotherhood with you. But in the civilian world, as compared to the military world, in the military world, everything is structured. You know who the leaders are, you know who the lower enlisted are, you know who to listen to, you know who not to listen to. In the civilian world, anyone without training could be a leader. Anyone with like you, it's hard because everyone thinks they're a leader but doesn't act like a leader because there's no proper training. And then you go out and you kind of feel vulnerable in a sense that, like, if something happens, do these people around me have my best interest in mind? Will they leave? Like, you kind of lose that comfort that you gained in the military. And again, with the lack of like ranking or anything in the civilian world, you're kind of like, how is this guy a leader? Like, just because he worked here for 6 months, someone plopped him in a leadership position. Like, he's a horrible leader, you know? And yeah, it's kind of chaos to begin with. It's weird.
Tell me about your junk removal company. How did that come about, and what made you want to build something that gives back to other veterans?
Okay. So I was working for a company where I was a project manager. And the company I was working for, all the foremen had been there for years. So they all knew what they were doing. They didn't need like management really. So there was a lot of downtime in my position, and I can't not work. So I started doing things like trying to help with their social media, trying to update their logo, just trying to do things that are way outside of what my job requirements were. And it's funny because my wife was like in my ear and she's like, Joe, just do your job. Stop doing things outside your job. You're going to piss people off. So you're going to get fired. I'm like, nah, no, I'm adding value to the company. Well, there's four owners to this company. And one day they called me in for a meeting and I'm like, crap, I'm going to get fired. My wife was right. Like, so they sat me down and the first thing they said was like, you've kind of shown that this job may be below you because you're doing all this extra stuff, and I'm just like bracing for impact. Well, they hit me with a surprise because they're like, we've heard about this franchise. It's veteran owned and operated. There is an opportunity to own a territory near us. We think that you would be great at running it. Go to this mixer on Friday and report back on Monday and let us know what you think. And I was like, oh, that's not what I expected at all. So I went to this mixer about J-Dog Junk Removal. It's a veteran owned and operated junk removal company. And prior to this, I've never celebrated the fact that I was a vet. Like, if you knew me, you knew I was a vet, but I didn't go around like, hey, I'm a vet, hear me roar, you know? But this company, they have these like camouflage trucks that are really cool. They're veteran owned and operated. They do what they can to give back to the veteran community. I immediately fell in love with the mission. So I went back, reported to them. They helped me get started with a JDOL franchise. Um, and within like 2 years, I was able to build up enough that I bought them out because we were all kind of partners with it. And then within 2 years, I bought them out of the partnership, was running it myself. And then in another 2 years, another franchise opportunity opened it up just north of my territory. So I expanded north. I bought that territory. So now I run two territories. I only employ veterans. And the cool thing about junk removal is you never know what you're going to run into. So on jobs that people are like empty nesters and their children's moved out of the house, this stuff is really good and it shouldn't be thrown out. So I'm like, wow, like this is an opportunity for me to give back while doing my job. So I found a warehouse. I started storing the items that we could repurpose. And there's two functions to that warehouse. Number one is we donate to local veterans in need. Number two is the last Saturday of the month, we open it up to the public garage sale style. So anybody could come in and enjoy these items. And I get a lot of repeat customers because each month we have something new. You never know what's going to be there. And literally, I like last month we sold this like brand new snowblower. I sold it for like $50. Like, I'm just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And trust me, it's not easy because when you're junking, usually you're throwing stuff in the trailer, it's wham bam. But when you hold on to nice things, you have to get it back to the warehouse. Like, and it's not a big money maker. Like, we do this every month, and I'd say maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year, the sale actually pays for the rent of that garage. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it as the harder right. I'm doing it because I can't stand good things being thrown out. And that was our battalion in the army was the harder right. And that was just instilled in me. And it resonates with people because there's a million junk removal companies out there. When people go, wow, these guys, not only are they veteran owned and operated, but they don't throw everything out. They get back to the community. It makes them want to hire us because they feel good about spending their money knowing that it's not just all carelessly being thrown out.
I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
So, why did you start the podcast?
That's a great question. So, as I talked about earlier, my relationship with alcohol was pretty out of control, and that followed me into my civilian life because when I got out, I was 21, so now I could legally drink. And there were a lot of times where I was alone, missing the military, and I would drink by myself. I even met my wife at a bar, like alcohol was ingrained in me. The bad thing about alcohol is it progressively gets worse if you're an alcoholic because your tolerance gets better. So then you have to drink more to feel good, and then the hangovers become worse. The bad decision making becomes better. That's like the only thing that it makes better, which is not a good thing to be better. So yeah, as the years went on, I progressively would drink more, and then I started hiding liquor, and I would sneak away, drink some liquor, because my wife got to the point where she's like, "You seem to be getting a little too drunk for comfort. Like, why don't we dial you back?" So we tried to limit the amount of beers I would have. So in front of her, I would appease to that limitation, but behind the scenes, I would sneak liquor or whatever I could do to get that buzz and maintain that buzz. And it finally got to the point where my wife realized what I was doing. She found my like secret stash, and she pretty much had a come to Jesus moment with me, sat me down and was like, "Listen, I love you, but when you drink, you turn into a different person, and I don't love him, and I'm tired of being married to two different people. You can't get this under control, so it's either us or the alcohol." Now, granted, I have two kids, I have two boys, and I'm a child of divorce. And I even told my wife when we got married, I was like, "Listen, my parents got divorced. I don't want to put our kids through that. Like whatever happens in life, we need to figure out." Well, here's a woman I love, my best friend. She was in a corner. She had to make a move because I was living the definition of insanity. I just kept doing it. I would stop for a couple weeks, a couple months. One time I quit at drinking for Lent, like, but I would go right back to it, pick it up right where I was, and just keep making bad decisions. So thank God she had the balls to really sit me down and give me this ultimatum, because at that point, like I had been like I'm pretty religious, and I've been praying to God, like, God, like, please give me the strength to stop doing this because I know this is not good for me. But her doing that was like it really literally scared me straight. So that day I told her, I was like, all right, hon, like I'll quit for 6 months. Why don't we reassess the situation after 6 months? And she was totally fine with that. So that day I just quit cold turkey. Um, and then at the 6 month point, we kind of reassessed. And I just looked at my life as a whole, and I was like, everything is better. My health is better. My sleep is better. I have money in my pocket because I'm not wasting it on alcohol and food and making bad purchases while I'm drunk online. Like my relationships were better. Me and my wife were like in the best place we've ever been in like 16 years of marriage at that point. And just everything was better. So I was like, you know what? Let's do another 6 months and kind of see what happens. So at the year mark, that's when I knew. I was like, I'm done for good because everything is too good now. Like, why would I go back to that? I'm good with my wife. She's happy. My kids are proud of me. They're happy. So, yeah, everything was good. Now, throughout this time, when you first quit drinking, you'll notice that life is boring because you realize how much time you spent drinking. And now that you're not drinking, you're like, what do I do? So each Saturday morning, I decided to start doing a celebration of sobriety. I would do these Saturday morning ruck marches because I wanted to do something to hold myself accountable. Where in the past, I would always get pretty wasted on Friday nights. And the last thing I would want to do Saturday morning would be wake up early, put a 50-pound ruck on, and do 4 to 5 miles in the woods. Like, I would never want to do that. So now Sober Joe is like, you know what? As long as my schedule allows it, I'm doing that every Saturday, year round. And I started doing that. And while I'm in the woods, I would get really cool ideas to help my business, whether it was like marketing ideas, video ideas, just things I could do to just help the success of my business. And for some reason my ideas stopped coming. Like I would keep doing these marches and like it would just be empty. And I'm like, what is going on? So I finally got frustrated and I literally challenged God on this one ruck march. I was like, God, like here I am, I'm a year sober, I'm fully able. I know there's got to be more for me than this. Like, give me something. Like, please use me. Whatever path you have for me, just let me know and use me because I'm willing, I'm able, I'm here, you know? So I'm like so passionate. Well, on this ruck march, I turned this one corner on this trail that I have 100 times before, and all of a sudden in my head, I hear this sober vet. I'm like, this sober vet, like, what is that? So my mind starts racing, and I come to the conclusion, I'm like, this could be a podcast. I could get on, I can normalize sobriety with the veterans because that's a conversation I've never heard. And the best way to spread that to the masses is through a podcast because everybody has a podcast. And I always listen to like Joe Rogan and all these big names, Sean Ryan. So I come home, I'm on fire with this idea. I bring it up to my wife. I'm like, honey, God talk to me, this sober vet, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, actually, that's kind of cool, but like you can't do it yourself because you're just some guy. Like you almost need a therapist or someone with certifications that could kind of come with the science behind whatever you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. So that would kind of make it more legit. So I have a really big network, so I figured it'd be too easy for me to find a therapist who's a veteran. So I started reaching out to my network through business, through JDog. I know a million therapists and I know a million veterans. I couldn't find one that was a vet and a therapist. So now I'm like a month into this idea. I'm already losing steam and I'm like, I don't want to let God down. Like I have to make this work. Like what is going on? I'm missing this key element. So I'm scrolling through my phone one morning. It was like a Sunday morning before church and I see Sergeant Thomas, who I deployed with. She was our supply NCO, so she was someone good to be on good terms with because if you needed anything, she was the go-to because she was our supply NCO. So I see that she had just posted something about she has a therapist spot called Evolve Therapy, and it talked about like how to deal with anxiety or something. I'm like, Sergeant Tom, why didn't I think of Sergeant Thomas? So I immediately message her. I'm like, hey, Dr. T, it's Yurick. I know at this point, I haven't talked to her in like 19, 20 years. I was like, been a while. God put something on me. It could be really big. Here's my plan. Here's our mission. I need a therapist who understands veterans. I saw you post your thing about your Evolve therapy. Would you be interested? Literally within 2 minutes, she gets back like, that is amazing. I would absolutely be interested. So thank God I found Dr. T. And then we kind of put together our mission. And episode one of the podcast is me telling my story because I figure if I'm going to have other guests on there and be vulnerable and if I expect them to kind of open up themselves, I have to lead by example. So yeah, episode one was my story. And then moving forward, we have a veteran guest. We've had a couple of civilians on as well, but for the most part, it's veteran guests tell their story. And then myself and Dr. T just kind of chime in where we can. And it's been amazing.
You mentioned that you rely on your faith. Was that always a part of your life, or did it grow stronger during your recovery?
Yeah, even as a kid, my parents, we went to church, Methodist, and as a kid, I remember going to church on Sundays and going on major holidays and things. When I was in the military and kind of in my younger adult years, I kind of shied away from it. I still prayed constantly and would rely on him when times were tough, but I just didn't go to church as often. And then when I met my wife, she had a 3-year-old prior to me meeting her. But to anybody that knows me, he's 100% my son. When we moved in together, we wanted to start a solid foundation based on Christianity because, in my opinion, to make a marriage work, you have to have God in there. It's never just two people because there's times where my wife relied on God, I relied on God, we relied on God together. So to make church more accessible for our family, we wanted to make sure that our son liked it as well. So once we moved in together, we literally went church shopping and we went to probably about maybe half a dozen churches. I would like one, Katie, my son wouldn't like it. We would go to another. Our son would love it. Me and Katie are like, oh, that pastor is like, meh, or whatever. So finally, we found one that all three of us liked, and then we started going there consecutively. And for my sobriety journey, I've relied on God a lot, like not even just a little, a lot, because honestly, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life because now I was facing Joe Yurick. I was facing the good, the bad, the ugly, everything I've ever suppressed, anything I've never wanted to deal with was now coming to the surface. And I couldn't numb it because alcohol wasn't an option. So now I'm dealing with all this stuff that I've never dealt with before. And yes, God got me through it. Like it's, without him, I would not be sober. I easily would have went back to drinking and said, "Screw this! This is too hard." But with my faith and with my wife, she was my rock as well. She quit drinking when I did. Um, she would deal with me when I was feeling it, when I was emotional and upset, because I would constantly use alcohol as my finish line. So like if I just make it through this crappy week, we had like a hoarder clean out. This job sucks, but if I make it through Friday, I could have a beer, everything will be good. So now with that carrot taken away, Friday would come and I get super irritable. I'd be like, man, it's Friday and I'm stuck drinking water. Like, what is this? I'd be like mad at the world, you know?
Yeah.
And luckily, my wife was very patient, very understanding, stood by me the whole way. But yes, to me, relying on my faith was everything. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I want to shout it on the mountain to help others. And we've had a lot of guests on the podcast that really aren't believers,
Hmm.
but they do recognize that there is something that is helping them that they can't explain. So even for the ones that are not like Christians or true believers, they do acknowledge a third party that is helping them through this, which I think is pretty interesting.
That's cool. The episode, it's, I think, your second to last episode, where you actually had your wife on and she
Oh,
was
that,
giving her perspective of everything that happened and how she saw everything. It was a really intense episode, very vulnerable also to lay it all out there. What was in the, I think you already had said some of it earlier, but what was that real turning point? Because she mentions in the episode that you were like two different people when you were outside with your buddies, like you were hanging out, you were like one way. But then when you were at home, you were another way. What At what moment did you realize, like, was there anything other than your wife actually saying, "Hey, if you don't do something, you're gonna lose the family"?
not so much. It was mainly her, and I think the main issue was when we would be out and about, I'd be having fun, socializing with other people. And then when I would get home, she would be like, "Hey, like, I think you had too much to drink. Like, you have this look on your face." And then I just immediately would get irritated. Like, dude, like, no one else there was complaining. Why are you complaining? Like, why are you giving me a hard time? It was 100% my ego because deep down I knew I had too much to drink. Deep down I knew I wasn't doing the right thing. And my poor wife was just trying to be a true support system and call me out on something I was messing up on. But when you're inebriated, you don't see that. You're like, you immediately put a shield up, you immediately go like deflect and blame her and like did any negative thing you could think of, that's what you end up doing. And unfortunately I did all those negative things. And yeah, that's part of the reason why she got fed up, because it's not fair for her to have to deal with that, you know, like again, she was just trying to help me. She was concerned about my health, concerned about how I looked and acted in front of my kids. Some just was concerned. And I was 100% taking offense. So I would view her as the enemy, trying to get me to stop something that I really enjoyed doing. Who are you to want me to quit? Like, I drank before you met me, you know, like I would use every excuse in the book. And it was really just me like trying to protect my addiction, which is horrible. And this is why I love my wife, because she is literally the yin to my yang, because she thinks of things that I don't. And as we were progressing in the podcast, she was like, you know, honey, like I think I should come on and kind of tell your story through my eyes, because the spouse needs a voice, because we're the ones that are really suffering. We're the ones that don't black out and forget things. We remember everything and we're stuck to deal with the pieces the next day. And like, and that was another thing that used to annoy the crap out of me. The next day, Katie would go through everything I said the previous night, exactly how it happened. And I'm just like, dude, like, I just don't want to hear this now. And again, it was my ego. It was me being a total a-hole. Like, yeah, it was not good. So when she brought up the idea of her telling my story through the podcast, at this point, I'm sober enough that I know I'm never drinking again. And I know that the story she's telling is about drunk Joe. I'm not that person anymore. So even though it was embarrassing then, what I wanted to do is I wanted her voice to touch veterans or even just any addict who is going through the things like, holy crap, like I'm literally doing that right now. Like maybe I need to reassess my life. So I was willing to be vulnerable. I was willing to not be painted in the best light in order to connect with those who might be on the fence of, I'm not an alcoholic. I have this under control. Holy crap. But I'm resonating with everything his wife is saying. My wife says to me, like, maybe I do have a problem. So she felt that was a very necessary episode. It was very heavy, very emotional, but it ends in triumph. So even though it was bad, there's a positive message in it because here we are. Next month will be 3 years sober, and my wife and I are the best we've ever been. If you told me when we got married I could love another person the way I do now, I wouldn't believe you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, keep smoking that, whatever. But dude, like literally, my wife is my best friend. I love her so much and I respect her so much because when it comes down to it, she saved me. She had the balls to tell me like you need to stop this to the point where I'm willing to leave you even though I love you. I'm willing to separate myself from you because I can't continue to watch what you're doing to yourself. And I'm forever in her debt because she's the one that finally got me to break this. And this is a generational curse. Like my dad was an alcoholic. I'm sure his dad was. I never met my grandparents. They died before I was born. But yeah, this like she broke a generational curse, which is huge.
I think she's right though, because usually when I listen to stories, it's always about the person who was like who had the addiction,
The addict.
right?
Yep.
Whatever addiction it is, but you don't actually get to hear the side of their partner or the family members that had to go through it also. So
Right.
I think that was a good episode.
Yeah, because again, that they're the silent sufferers. They're the ones really suffering. So like, it's good for addicts to tell their story, but yeah, it got like, and I did feel shame. I felt a lot of guilt with that episode, but again, I just have to stay in the mind frame. That was drunk Joe. I'm sober Joe, and I'm doing good now, and that's all I could do.
How has hearing other veterans open up changed the way you see your own past?
One thing that I think is very cool with hearing everyone else's story is, for the most part, the journey's kind of the same. It all starts like not that bad, and then it progressively gets worse, or you realize you're using it to mask something, or someone calls you out on it, or it starts to affect work or relationships in a negative way. And then there always seems to be, for the most part, an aha moment where people are like, all right, that's bad. Like, I gotta stop this. Like enough is enough. This is where I draw the line. I got to make a decision. And then another common denominator with all these stories is you have to have a support system. Luckily for me, it was my wife, my religion, my friends. But nobody, at least not that I've ran into, has the intestinal fortitude to do this themselves. Becoming sober, like I said earlier, is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but it's also the most rewarding. And again, a support system is key if you want to continue to stay sober, whether it's AA meetings, your church, your family, a best friend, whatever it is, you need the support system. And that's one thing I keep seeing in all these veteran stories. And another thing that I really enjoy about doing this podcast, I've had three guests on here that I knew. We just released episode 11. We're booked out to episode 21. So for the most part, these are
Nice.
people that I've no clue who they are, but if you'll see, our banter is so organic because when you meet another veteran, you just automatically have some sort of level of trust and like this person knows what I went through because they went through it too. And I feel like that really comes across in the podcast because these people open up to us as they would someone they've known for years, you know? And again, we've just met for this half hour, 45 minutes we're on this podcast. But the level of comfort, because Dr. T and I are both vets, we're here to inspire other people. There's a zero judgment zone. No one's saying, oh,
Yes.
dude, that was horrible. Why would you do that? No, no, no. It's, bro, tell your story the way you want to tell it. We'll chime in when we can. But the main mission isn't even for us, it's for the listener. It's for that person who's struggling or on the fence, is to inspire them to go, look, if all these veterans can go through what you're going through now and make it out on this side of sobriety and are bragging about it, you can do it too.
I-
That's literally what our mission is.
I'm sure it helps that they feel like you guys are not going to judge them because either you went through it or you understand, like there's sympathy towards it.
Absolutely.
Empathy.
Why would I judge you when, like you said, I literally went through it and I did a lot of bad things while drinking. I made stupid decisions because that's what you do when you're drinking. You're like your inhibition, that part of your brain that's like, no, you shouldn't do that. You kick that out of the window and you do whatever feels right or feels like fun. And yeah, so I can never judge anyone for what they've done because I've done so many stupid things too. And yeah, again, it's all part of the journey. Like another cool thing is all these addicts that I've talked to, they end up being like the coolest people. Like I don't know why it is. Like I've never met like a boring, non-productive addict. Like everyone I've ever talked to on this side of sobriety has an amazing story to tell because we're all amazing people and we just get stuck with the alcohol because a lot of our brains kind of need that in order to feel like we function properly or whatever it may
Mhm.
be. But any addict I've talked to has been so interesting and such like very cool people. Like, and that's a common denominator I did not expect going into this journey.
What has surprised you most about the people listening to your podcast?
That's a good question. So I would get messages from people that just say like, "Wow, this is something I've never heard. Keep going." I have had people reach out and say, "I don't want to tell my story, but I'm a recovering vet, and whenever I have trouble or a day where I really want to drink or do something bad, I put on one of your episodes, and it reminds me that I can do this because there's others out there who have my history, who know my past, that are doing it and are doing good now." So the fact that strangers, because again, 5 months ago, this did not exist. So the fact that with our app, we're on Buzzsprout, we could see that we're in 195 cities as of like yesterday. So there's people in those cities that are listening to us that again might be struggling and are using this as reinforcement for them to not drink. And that to me is just like the ultimate thing because when we started this, my whole goal is listen, if we could affect one person and get them to stop drinking, mission accomplished. The more we affect, the more the mission is amazing. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, to have strangers reach out and just say there's supportive things like, I love what you're doing, keep going. How can I support this? OMG, this is something I've never heard. Or you get that, I wish my dad heard this before he took his life, or like some tragic thing happened. You get the people that are like, I wish this existed 5 years ago. So yeah, it's tough because one thing that is very relevant in the veteran community, unfortunately, is suicide because a lot of veterans go through things that humans aren't really meant to go through, like war is
Right.
hell. There's a lot of things that just stay with you. And on average, between 18 to 22 veterans commit suicide per day. That is a horrible number. So we hope a ripple effect of our mission is a lot of those veterans, when they're making that heinous decision, they have some sort of substance in them because most people in their right mind would not want to do that. Like there's outlets and ways to deal with this. But if you're not in the right mind and you're like, you know what, everyone would be better without me, no one loves me, like you could do some irreversible damage. So we're hoping that by normalizing sobriety with veterans, that number will go down because you get veterans in the right mind. And look, if you're a vet that wants to hurt yourself, start a workout program, do jujitsu, do a ruck march in the woods. That hurts, but you'll be here the next day. You know, you can still hug your loved ones. Like there's a lot of ways if you enjoy pain to go through pain, but ending is not the answer, you know? So that's why I really want to push normalizing sobriety with veterans because we're hoping that could bring that number down.
Where do you want to take the sober vet? As the podcast grows, how do you see yourself growing with it?
So my goal is within 5 years to have as big of an audience as Joe Rogan or Sean Ryan or some of these bigger name podcasts because this is a selfless mission. I'm not doing this for any personal gain. I'm simply doing this as a voice because I've never heard the conversation of let's normalize sobriety with veterans. Because, like, I'm a part of my VFW, for example. Our VFW is the whole focus is a bar. When you go there, you drink. That's how you keep the club open. You know, it's a big revenue maker. And I'm not saying every vet should stop drinking. I'm not saying everyone should stop drinking. I'm solely talking to the people who self-medicate with substances in a harmful or negative way. If you could have a beer or two and go home and be fine, more power to you. I'm not against alcohol. I'm not against pills. I'm not against marijuana. If you can use them responsibly, awesome. I couldn't. I have a gene where if I crack a beer, I'm full throttle. I'm drinking until I pass out. It's just something in me. So I'm a voice for people like me. Where I want to see myself is getting so big that we have hundreds of stories because look, you might not relate to my story. You might relate to like our second episode was an opioid addiction, or there's other things you could be addicted to, not just alcohol, you know, like there's so many stories out there. I want to be able to affect everyone in a positive way, no matter what your background is. I want to be able to interview people that have gone through every possible addiction you could think of so we could affect that person even if it's a gambling addiction. It doesn't have to be like it could be any kind of addiction, biting your nails, whatever, something you is harming you. But if we can talk to enough veterans, get enough stories out there and get big enough that sobriety becomes normalized, just the way that now alcohol is normalized as the culture of being in the military. I want to bring sobriety to that level of normalization. And the only way to do that is by growing and getting bigger because that's the biggest mountain we have to climb right now is just awareness. You know, we have to get big enough in order to be like, you know what? This guy's got something like cool going on because look at how everyone's thriving in sobriety. Not everyone thrives when you're an addict, you know? Like, so if
Mhm.
you could come to this side, your loved ones will thank you for it. You'll thank yourself for it because there's just so much positivity in it. So, yeah, our biggest goal right now is just awareness and getting out there. And that's why we appreciate people like you having us on your podcast because this is going to touch an audience that I couldn't touch on my own. So, I appreciate you.
Thank you. What does success look like for you, not as a podcaster, but just as an everyday kind of thing?
Well, I would say to start the day out without a hangover, I'm already successful because that beats the last 18 years of my life. So that already starts the day with success. To be a productive, responsible person that people can rely on. My children both look up to me and are proud of me for being sober. That is a success. I'm a dependable husband and I'm a productive husband. I do things around the house. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So my wife loves me unconditionally and she's proud of me. So that to me is being a success. Just being a light, just being something that you could inspire. Because I still have friends that drink and I still have friends who are veterans who are struggling and they don't want to quit yet, but they hear what I'm saying and they see what I'm doing and they like it. They're just not ready yet. And just to be a light for people like that, in my opinion, is being a success. Being a homeowner, being holding down a job, being responsible. Again, I people know when they call me and they ask me to help, I show up. That to me is a success. I couldn't do any of those things if I didn't take care of myself first. So you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Because again, if I wasn't in the position I'm in now, I'm no good to anybody. So that's part of my motivation to continue my sobriety, because people are watching me. And can you imagine if this sober vet fell off the wagon and starts drinking again? No, I would never want to let people down in that right. So yeah, just being responsible and just being someone that people could trust and rely on, to me, is definition of success.
So tell everyone where they can find you.
So you can find us on all major platforms. We're also on YouTube, or the easiest way is just to go to www.thissobervet.com.
Well, congrats on your sobriety.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Again, if anyone is out there is struggling, there is a hope on the other side. I promise you, everything is better on this side. You just have to work at it. It's a decision you have to make, and it's one decision you will never regret. I promise you.
Thank you for listening. If this episode resonates with you, be sure to follow the show on Spotify and leave a rating and a review. It helps others find these conversations. You can also follow us on social media to stay connected. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know what podcasters you'd love to hear more about.